Pascal once said that all of humanity's problems stem from man not being able to sit quietly in a room alone. And this is something that I've been thinking about pretty often. This idea that we as humans, typically, I don't think we know ourselves very well. And silence and stillness force us to confront unprocessed grief and trauma and things in our life that we've avoided with noise. Noise is how we avoid things. Think about it. You're always listening to music, you're always watching a movie or watching content on Instagram, you're talking to someone, or you're reading a book. While some of these forms of distraction or consumption might be a better word, are healthier than the others, they're not all beneficial all the time. And I think that to be well adjusted and well integrated human beings, a part of that is sitting alone in silence and stillness, because that's the only way you're really able to confront yourself. The mind is like a desert that you enter into by stillness. It's impossible to get to know oneself without stillness. You can't really get to know oneself without, or I should say, you can't actually know yourself through just conversations with people or something like that. It's just not possible. People can point things out to you, and you can try your best to internalize these truths or embed these truths into you that people point out in you, but nonetheless, it's still impossible. It's impossible to confront oneself and confront in a proper way the things that you're going through without stillness and silence. I think that people typically just are afraid of what they might find if they were to be quiet and to be still for a long period of time. I think that it also is a discipline. Stillness isn't relaxation, although it may seem like that at first. It's a discipline. The breakthrough of stillness and silence comes not when it's very comfortable, but when it's a struggle. When it's a struggle not to say anything, it's a struggle not to do anything. It forces you to just be. Because humans aren't human doings, we're human beings. So a lot of the time when it comes to our growth, whether it's spiritually or just as a person, it's about learning to be. And the things that we often attribute to doing are not us at all. And these themselves are distractions. These are things that we like to think about ourselves as us, and they're a part of our identity, but they're distractions. They're masks we put over the actual person that we are, which is unrepeatable. It's irreducible to any sort of certain thing. Like when I was in high school, I was a good soccer player. That's not who I was, though. You see what I'm saying? I was a good soccer player, but that's not who I was at the time. It's not who I am now. I am very good at other things in life, like talking or making jokes with my friends or having a good time, but these aren't who I am. But you won't know that until you sit with yourself in silence or stillness. You'll have this assumption that you are the funny person or the funny guy, and that's just who you are. And you'll start to think that about yourself, and you'll start to attach that funny moniker or that lonely, in some cases very unhealthily, lonely, depressed, sad. You'll start to attach those monikers to your identity. But these aren't your identity. These may be things that happen to you, that you are experiencing, but they're not you. And typically, this maybe not be true for everyone, but typically those things only arise when you haven't sat with the person that just is. Like, who are you if if you can't use your name, if you can't say anything about yourself, if you can't point to any other person in your life as a metric of relationship, like, well, this is my dad, so I am his son, that sort of thing, who are you then? You're still a person. You're still the same person that you were, but it's the sort of person that's just you. It's the person that isn't doing something. It's the person that just is, the person that's just being, the human that's just being, the human being. So, for instance, when you say something like, I can't live with myself, who's the I that can't live with the self? Well, typically, the I is the person that you are, that you can identify as you, that's not anyone else, but you don't really know why. You don't know why you're not the person next to you. If you guys looked exactly the same and had the same name and had the same interests and hobbies, what would differentiate you two? But the self is the self that we make up. We make up a certain self through noise and distraction and things like that. And this self oftentimes is not true to who we are. And it gets very confusing and seems very mystical, or just like I'm yapping. But I think that these sorts of truths are better experienced. So when you experience stillness and silence, you'll get a glimpse at what I really mean, which is that the person that you are is what makes you unique is not anything is not any attribute of you, but it's the very fact that you are a person, irreducible to any certain thing, like soccer player or funny or smart or creative. The fact that you can't reduce it to those things is precisely what makes you a person. So this self that we have, to track back, this self that we make up, that we come up with, I think often we begin to attach our identity to that self. And the person that you truly are, that you are unwilling or afraid of sitting with, is not a big fan of the self. Carl Jung had this idea, something like this idea, called the shadow self, where there's a part of you, a sort of dark part of you, that is maybe the animalistic desires in you or something like that. And the trick is not to defeat that shadow self, as Carl Jung calls it. The trick is to integrate it into you, because it's still a part of you, but it's the part of you that most people are afraid of. It's the part of you that has desires that you don't want to admit, that its reaches creep out in certain moments, but it's scary and you push them away as thoughts like, oh, it's just a random thought, like push it away. But you have to learn to integrate this person or this part of you into your person, so that you can be who you truly are. And that only comes through stillness and silence. That's really the only way it's possible to integrate these parts of you, because these parts of you, they're not said. Like, I can't say them. You can't explain them. They're experienced. And when you experience these parts of you, you learn to better integrate them and not hold them in a sense, but gather them. You're scattered. We are scattered as people. We're very all over the place. And this we're wounded and we're scattered. A lot of stillness is gathering our attention and gathering ourselves so that we can be healed and we can be whole together. And this is the importance of stillness and silence. And solitude it's about being put back together, being whole. If you're not whole and you're scattered all the time, these parts of yourself that you lose because you connect yourself, or you attach yourself, I should say, to every little thing or this and that, instead of just connecting yourself to it, then when that thing is broken off, then a part of you is broken off. But it's not truly that a part of you is broken off. It's that's a part of the self that you've created that I spoke of earlier is broken off, and your identity is so attached to the self that you've made up that it feels and it hurts like a part of you is broken off. But the issue is not that a part of you has actually been broken off, but that you haven't actually integrated who you really are. And that only comes through stillness, quietude, and solitude, being very still, very silent, and reducing your focus to a singular point, not necessarily reducing your focus to nothing, because that's what the New Age, that's what they practice, is they connect to nothing. They leave everything, but you want to focus on a single point, focus on Christ. He is our single point and purpose. And so the mind, and this is the descent into the mind. This is what we do. We descend into our minds or our hearts, and part of that, and they say, the monks like to say the hardest hike or the hardest travel, the hardest distance, the longest distance you can walk is the 12 inches between your brain and your heart. Because we go from our mind, which is scattered and all over the place and has all these different conceptions of who we are and ourselves and what we do, and we have to gather that and then descend into the heart. In this descent into the heart, it is the goal, like I said, is not to create a focus of nothing or to focus on nothing or to relinquish all of the focus, but it's to descend into the heart, and as you descend there, you gather yourself onto a single point, which is Christ. And Christ, He can heal you, He can set you free, He can gather you, He's the one who puts you together, He's the one who redeems you, He's the one who recapitulates your person, for lack of a better term, but to use a very historical theological term, He's the one who recapitulates you, not merely on a societal or group or communal level is the best word to say, communal level, but also on a personal level. He integrates, He's the one who integrates by putting a singular focus on Christ. He's the one who integrates all of the different parts of you into one person, one put together, whole and healed person. Because when we're attached to all these different things and not solely on Christ, we are wounded because these things fail us inevitably. Whether it's a person, whether it's a job, whether it's a dream that we have, these things will fail us no matter what. And so then we're wounded because we were attached to them. We attached this conception of ourselves to it without actually finding out who Christ truly made us to be. And notice I said who Christ truly made us to be, not to do. Christ didn't merely make us to do things. He made us to be with Him, to be a person. The word in theology that the early church fathers used is hypostasis. It's an irreducible, unique person. It's not something that you can really put your finger on what it is, but it's pretty much the fact that you are never going to exist again after you pass, and you will never, and you had never existed before you were born. There's no one like you. You're utterly and completely unique, and you're not, like I said before, you're not reducible to any sort of certain attribute. You are a hypostasis. You're a person. And so understanding that is an experience, not necessarily something I can say. Because even now I'm having trouble explaining it to you. But that's because it's an experience. It's something you experience, and you only experience it through solitude and stillness. So, like I was saying before, the mind is the desert that we enter in to by stillness. And in the mind, there are the ancient devils that have always been, which are the ego and the self. And we have to confront those, but we don't confront them alone. We confront them with Christ. And Christ takes those parts of us, which are still parts of us. They shouldn't be gotten rid of, but they should be healed. These are wounded parts of us, the wounded ego, the wounded self. These are parts of us that they just need to be healed. They don't need to be dispensed of, but they need to be healed. And that's what Christ comes to do in us. He heals those parts of us so that we can further descend into the heart, so that we can truly commune with Him on a heart level, not just on a psychological level. We can't psychologize our faith. We can't, or our relationship with God, I should say, or our faith. We can't psychologize that. We can't mentalize that, I should say. That's not something that's done by mentalization, but rather it's an experience of the heart. And this is where the language gets very mystical and impractical, it might seem. But the best practical advice is to sit in stillness, which is an ascetic discipline. It's not merely relaxation, like I said before. Is to sit in stillness and to whisper the Jesus prayer, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. This is what we must do, and this is what we must practice if we want to be healed. This is not about being able to say that I sat in stillness for 40 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour or however long it is. It's about being whole and put together and being at peace within ourselves and dispensing these horrible principalities like anxiety or depression or pride from our lives. It's about being put together and whole and healed.